The most powerful breakthroughs that you're going to have, they don't come when you're grinding or when you're stressed or forcing solutions. They come when your mind is still. And clarity doesn't come from thinking more, it comes from thinking less. When you stop believing every thought that you have and start operating from a place of clarity, flow, and being present. Because when you do that, you start to get super empowered and you let go of all those thoughts that are holding you back. Think about that for a minute. Usually, when you're trying to find clarity, you're thinking more, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to create solutions. But clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from less thinking, not more thinking. Most of the problems you have are the ones you create for yourself. All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. I'm George Wright III with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I hope you're having a great week so far. And I hope that some of the episodes that we have talked about this week are giving you a little bit of thoughts and action that you can take to really unleash your potential and go to the next level. I want you to think about something for a minute here. The most powerful breakthroughs that you're going to have, they don't come when you're grinding or when you're stressed or forcing solutions. They come when your mind is still. And clarity doesn't come from thinking more, it comes from thinking less. That's a thought I want to have settle with you while we talk about this episode today. I've mentioned before when I've highlighted things from Ryan Holiday, Stillness is the Key, but I want to welcome you back to this kind of third day of thoughts that I've been going over about a book that I read recently called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And it's some new thoughts, it's some thoughts that maybe you've heard before, but the angle on this is a little bit different. And so maybe you have been struggling a little bit lately with being trapped inside your head, overthinking, but entrepreneurs and leaders overall really do tend to focus a lot on thoughts. And if you're at all focused on personal development, this is something you've probably struggled with a little bit, even when you're doing well. And today is that third day I want to talk to you a little bit about this book that I've read and some of the ideas and thoughts. And already this week, in the first couple of days, we've talked about the nature of thought itself and the illusion it gives us of trying to control the situation and scenarios that we live in. We've also talked about the ways that you can identify the belief systems that are holding you back, primarily constructed by your thoughts. But today what I want to do is I want to bring it all together by exploring what happens when you stop believing. I want you to listen to this for a minute. When you stop believing every thought that you have and start operating from a place of clarity, flow, and being present. Because when you do that, you start to get super empowered and you let go of all those thoughts that are holding you back. So these are the states where entrepreneurs make their most productive decisions, their best productivity. When they create their best work, when they live their best lives, it's all coming from those states of clarity, flow, and being present. So we're going to cover sort of three ideas today. One is, what's the path to actually getting clarity and being in flow? Second, how do you get free from these thoughts that are becoming obstacles for you? And then finally, living in a state of really peace and ease and presence so that you can be the most productive. So let's start with this idea of clarity and flow. This is a great book because it really gives some good examples of how true clarity doesn't come from more thinking. Think about that for a minute. Usually when you're trying to find clarity, you're thinking more, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to create solutions. But clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from less thinking, not more thinking. And when the mind is still and its creativity can really move and the insight that you have, it'll naturally emerge. And so stillness really is the key. Think about it. Some of the best ideas you've probably had is when you weren't trying. You're in the shower, you're on a walk, you're during some downtime or on a vacation. Some of the best ideas I've had is in the shower. You get out and you're like, oh my gosh, I got all these ideas I got to write down. But that's because your mind wasn't cluttered with the constant analysis that you're giving it. It's relaxing. And so for entrepreneurs, this is a difference between forcing solutions and allowing breakthrough ideas to surface. You've got to create some real clarity around that because we try not to focus on the problem. We focus on the solution, right? Prosperity pillar, focus on solutions. But the problem is we try to force those solutions or force clarity. And it really comes from, I guess I would say, rarely does it come from panic or overthinking or overanalyzing. It comes from space. Clarity comes from being present, doing what you do, staying focused and active. And when you're in flow, sometimes you'll notice that time seems to disappear. Things seem effortless and ideas connect almost on their own. Entrepreneurs who tap into this state consistently operate in a whole different level. It's one of the reasons why I talk about the idea of focusing on your unique talent, because your unique talent is that talent that you're excellent at, but you're also passionate about when time just takes off. So, as an entrepreneur, an owner, a driver, a leader, you've got to find ways to focus on your unique talent and let others do the things they do best. And that's when your clarity and your state of flow is going to happen. The second idea I wanted to mention to you is that you've got to find ways to get free from these thought based obstacles that you're making. Most of the problems you have are the ones you create for yourself. We do this all the time, right? The trap many of us fall into is believing we need to fight or fix every single thought. Something came up, oh my gosh, I got to work on that. But you don't have to wrestle with your mind as much as you think you need to do in order to move forward. Remind yourself when this happens that thoughts are just temporary. Thoughts are going to come and go. And even when you fix one thought, it's going to keep coming. Other things are going to come up. So thoughts rise and fall just like the waves in the ocean. You don't need to control them. You just need to let them pass. Let them go. We talk about, I've used that analogy before. If you've ever been surfing or on the ocean, you can fight all the waves or you can just sit back and you can ride those waves. But you need to let those thoughts pass. So for entrepreneurs, this means you don't have to eliminate all your fear before you act. You don't have to feel fully confident before you launch something. You don't have to solve every doubt or be super organized or prepared just to make a single decision. The key is moving forward despite your thoughts are not the things that move you forward, you are. So instead of asking, how do I fix my fear? Ask, what would I do if this thought wasn't true? What would I do if I was confident? How would I act if I was prepared? That shift is very powerful. And I want you to try that with things that you're working on, because the answers and solutions come on the path. They don't come prior to the path. We just convince ourselves that we've got ways to figure it out, and that's not the key. So you've got to get free from all these thought-based obstacles you're making by just moving forward, taking the steps. And then lastly, what I wanted to bring up to you today is you've got to learn to live your life more present if you want to simplify and create more peace of mind in your mind. Peace and fulfillment aren't rewards you get after success. They're available to you right now in the present moment. Sometimes as entrepreneurs or business owners, we postpone happiness. We say things like, I'll relax once I hit 7 figures, or I'll be fulfilled once I exit my business, or I'll slow down once everything's stable. That whole saying you probably grew up around, do what most people won't so you can eventually live like most people can't. That's in the future. You need to find ways to create peace right now. And stability never really comes anyway. There's never going to be a perfect situation in your business and in your life, because the mind will always create the next problem for you to solve. That's the whole reason it's there. It's trying to help you solve problems. So the reality is peace doesn't come later. It comes when you stop believing every single thought that you're having and you allow yourself to be present. That's the key. Listen to what I said there. You've got to stop believing the thoughts that you have. Your thoughts are just there to help you, protect you, but they're not there to be the answer all the time. Leaders who operate from presence, from being present, they're more effective, they're more creative, they're more connected with their teams. And entrepreneurs who learn to enjoy the journey find their business becomes the vehicle for their fulfillment, not the barrier to their fulfillment. And I can tell you from personal experience, when you get wrapped up and caught up in your mind and your thoughts, everything slows down. Everything slows down. So let's summarize what we talked about today. First of all, clarity and flow comes from being still, not from more thinking. You're not going to get clear by thinking more. Second, your freedom comes from letting thoughts pass instead of fighting them. You will get past those obstacles if you just let them go. And lastly, peace and fulfillment come in the present moment, not someday in the future. So let your path, let your business, let your process be your peace and fulfillment. That's the ultimate takeaway that I would have for you with this topic we've talked about the last few days. Your thoughts are not reality. When you stop believing every one of them, you're going to open yourself up to clarity, creativity, and peace. And so here's what I want you to think about today. Where in your life or business could you let go or stop forcing something to happen and instead allow clarity to just happen while you're on the process, while you're moving forward, while you're working? So that's my message for today. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I've got a couple of other cool things to drop for you this week, but I hope that you will take these messages, use them in your life. I hope you'll share this show. Do me a favor and share this show with anybody that you feel it might benefit. And hit me up on the Daily Mastermind. Let me know what you're working on. And you can always email me. I always tell you, my direct email address is george@g3worldwide.com. I'd love to hear from you. I want to know what you're working on. I know what you're struggling with, what you're winning at. And that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy as well. So I'd love to be able to give you some feedback. Anyway, that's it for today. Have an amazing day. Once again, this has been the Daily Mastermind. We'll talk with you tomorrow.